This is the Team Objection podcast for March 5th, 2020, episode 428. You can probably already tell I'm not 100%. Look, I'm not even centered in the goddamn frame.
I'm not.
There we go.
Juice is fucking burning my dick off. It's so hot. It's crazy. Which dick burning is the sensation I feel when I watch the Suns lately. So that's actually pretty appropriate.
That's your lead-in this week is dick burning, huh?
Sure.
Wasn't planned, but we got there.
We got there somehow, some way. We're all wearing the Sun shirts this time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm feeling a little saucy because the Suns suck. Yeah, I wore. It's my Valley Boy shirt as one last throwback to the great Kelly Oubre, who literally was the heart of our team.
Yeah. Do you want to pour one out for him? I think it's probably a good idea.
I kind of do. Like,
Hold on, let me finish my water.
Man.
Yeah.
Who knew once he went down, the whole ship would go down with him?
It was really depressing seeing us play two of the worst teams in the league last week. And it's like, okay, Golden State, we should be all right against them. Steph Curry's not back. We thought maybe he would be. He's not. We should beat him. Nope.
Yeah, we got the reverse Titanic going on here where the captain went down first and then the ship followed. It's been bad. And no one is playing with any heart. I told Chris I can accept losses where we tried hard and just like couldn't hit a shot. You know, that happens. But like there's no effort. You're letting a bunch of scrubs, ex-Suns, shitty players like run you out of your own court. It was terrible.
Derrick Rose for,
Well, I mean, Derrick Rose is at least a player. We have Dragon Bender and Marquise Chris.
No, that was probably symbolically the worst part of it, I'd say. Was just like, oh God, these two guys that are complete busts for us played against us. Why?
It was a bit disappointing, especially at home. I can't really characterize those losses as anything but disasters. That was not the case against the Raptors, but I think people were still so shell-shocked / really disappointed by the two losses that preceded it that they took out their frustrations on that loss. And I watched that game, and I'm like, that was a fine loss.
A fine loss. We were up by 17, so that part sucks. But we've been doing that all year, and people weren't ready to jump off the bandwagon then. So
they didn't lose the lead because of a lack of effort or a lack of hustle or a lack of trying. The Raptors are just really good, and that talent disparity showed in the second half, and they weren't good enough to overcome it. And they were still right in that game until Ayton got hurt with 3 minutes left by a play where he shouldn't have been hurt. So, I don't really hold that against them all that much. And I understand fans are really kind of just despondent at this point and over it and tired of losing 10 straight years in. I get it, but it's like not all losses are created equal.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
And not all bitching should be created equal.
Yeah. I mean, there's just still things that are just off, like letting Tyler Johnson go. So, I mean, I know he wasn't playing that well, but now we don't have... And, our backup, we have Javon Carter and Elliot Kobo out together for long stretches, which is just not a recipe for success, I don't think.
Well, and that wouldn't have been the case if not for the Oubre thing, because Cam Johnson would have played more 2, but now he's going to probably play more 4, or maybe Bridges is. I did like him and Mikal Bridges playing together in the, 15 to 20 minutes they did so against the Raptors. Cam is showing a surprising ability to drive and kick.
Mm-hmm.
And Mikal's 3-point shot looks like it's losing the hitch for good. Those are nice.
I wanted to say it's unfortunate that Bridges, minutes are kind of going unnoticed because they're coming at, unfortunately, a time when a lot of the fan base is outraged. I think for pretty good reason, but we are failing to see his progress. And it's been great. And Cam Johnson, that's been great. Like, we have what feels like some pieces for the future now.
That's what I keep almost pointing back to is like, I know no NBA team stays completely healthy for an entire season, but holy crap. Like, can you imagine next year with basically bringing this whole team back? We're not bringing back Baines and we're not going to bring back Saric. But I mean, for the most part, we're bringing back the core of the team.
Well, like, how do you know that for sure though? Just out of curiosity.
I'm pretty sure they've reported they're not planning on bringing back Baines at the least. So,
although Baines is the one I could maybe see because he's 33, and while he got off to that hot start, he's not going to be demanding $15 million next year anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Although maybe in this diluted free agent pool, who the hell knows?
I mean, if someone wants to pay him $15 million a year, you go right ahead because I'm not paying.
Well, and
Exactly.
that's the thing is like, in a way, it's depressing that we're bringing the same team back that won at this point, maybe not even 30 games this year.
Yeah.
But I did want to point out, how many games did we leave through injuries, like, on the table? You know, like, I know it's a stat we keep coming back to, but like that starting five is like first in the NBA in minutes disparity. It's in like 5 games total if you count up all the minutes, but still, like, that, I think that means something. And I know a lot of teams can do that, and that's fine. You can say, where would Boston or New Jersey, Brooklyn, where would Brooklyn be if they had Kyrie Irving the whole year? Like, that's fine to do for them too. But I'm just saying, for the Suns, if you had that squad healthy together, and I'm counting the suspension, how many games is that? Is that like 10? Is it 15? It might not even be enough to get us into the playoffs, or maybe still fighting for the 8 seed, but like it's meaningful.
Your problem you run into is cohesiveness at that unit. You know, you end up getting a lot of cohesiveness with them playing together. So maybe it's worth even more than 15 games.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. We have healthy Ayton, healthy Kelly.
A developed Cam, a developed McHale. Like, all those things together, I think, are promising at the least.
I will point out that we are below NBA average in terms of games lost to injury this season. And even if you count Aiden's suspension as an injury, which it's not, we are still below average in the NBA for games lost to injury.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say it hasn't had an impact, but what I think it showcases to me is we don't have any margin for error whatsoever.
We have no depth. Our bench is terrible.
Which we thought we had fixed. We talked about raising the floor, and we had, because the core 8 of this team is miles better than last year, and it's got NBA players at each of those positions. Like, I think our top 8, there's no doubt all of those guys are NBA rotation guys. How good were they going to be? We'll see. But they're all at least salvageable NBA players, unlike the last few years we've had disasters running out. But then as soon as you lose 1 or 2 of them, now we're playing, again, guys like Akobo, who should probably not be in the league. And I think Carter's actually been pretty good the last couple weeks, but if he was our 12th guy, that'd be fine. He's currently like our 7th.
Yeah. That's what we're running into problems with it. And, I mean, can we overstate? I know Frank Kaminsky wasn't a world killer, but I think losing him really did hurt. Yeah. He was playing decent. He could defend a little bit. He could get us 10 to 12 points off the bench.
Well, I mean, injuries with him, it was a thing of he was getting overexposed, and then he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And maybe because of that, maybe we were demanding too many minutes.
And Baines was overexposed.
It's like when you hurt your left foot and then later your right hip becomes injured because you're overcompensating. It's like that can happen with the players too.
Yeah. So it's just kind of depressing of how it's just, you're right, Chris. I guess, we haven't lost that much player minutes to injury type of thing as far as league average, but it's just stacked. It's like one after the other after the other. It's like, all right, finally, Baines is back. And Kelly Oubre's hurt now.
Well, and I'm curious, like, who, because like Chris, you said not all losses are the same. Well, I mean, not all injuries are the same either. So I'm sure there are some teams that they are missing their star, but there are other teams where it's like, yeah, of course. But you have a lot of, and it shows though, right? Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of other teams that maybe they're missing like their 5th best player or worse. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to be said for that, but the Clippers are the clear exception to that rule. Paul George has missed more than half the games this season. Kawhi's missed 20-plus now due to load management, which isn't an injury per se, but it's sort of meant to prevent it. And without those 2 guys, they're still doing just fine. Now, their record is slightly below 500 without the 2 of them, but because they're so good with at least one of them playing, I mean, they're in contention for the 2 seed in the West, and they're going to be fine in the playoffs. Yeah. Now, the Clippers just have a good roster top to bottom, so they can weather that storm a lot better than we can. So it's not really a reason to point to them and be like, well, they can do it. Yeah, well, the Clippers are an NBA contender, and we are clearly not.
Well, because for so long, people said, what do we need? And the number one I heard for a long time was power forward. And I'm thinking maybe power forward to come off the bench, along with the point guard to come off the bench, and also the bench, just all the bench. Let's just have a good bench.
Well, yeah,
we have like Cam. Who else is really good off the bench? And Frank was giving us decent minutes when he was playing well.
Exactly. That was the nice thing. When we had Frank, when we had Cam coming off the bench, when we had Bridges potentially coming off the bench, when Sharge was starting with Oubre and Booker and Aiton and Rubio, like we had seemingly 4 guys off the bench that were pretty solid. And I mean, Tyler Johnson was playing pretty well to start the year too. So that was really like 5 guys off the bench that were doing okay and we could manage. But then, I mean, just I guess it really was. It was just a regression to the mean at that point.
I saw a lot of people complaining about Devin Booker, which is a topic we could dive into for hours. But the short version of it is this. People are like, there's no way he should be tired. He didn't play in the offseason, this and that. And it's like, you look back at this stretch, particularly now without Oubre, he's playing 40-plus minutes a game. That's not sustainable for anybody of any age whatsoever.
Yeah, and like he's tired, and I'm sure there's an emotional side of it too. He lost his like right-hand man. He lost, by all accounts, a mentor with Kobe. Like, there's been a lot. The All-Star thing ended well, but was a roller coaster. So, there's a lot going on, not just on the court. And I know it's so nice to just view these players as like machines and they only exist to play basketball. But like, they're people. They have stuff going on too. Yeah. I know they're paid millions, and maybe you could argue they should be able to get over that, but they're still people. It's not that easy sometimes.
Well, I mean, you can argue that that's really what separates the greatest from there is the ability to put that aside and be kind of robotic on the court. But when it comes to somebody like Booker, who maybe it's worth reminding everybody, he's 23 years old, 24 now, I think, right now. So, I mean, he's insanely young. And it's just, he's been in the league for a while, yes, but he's still got a lot of room still to grow.
In basketball terms, his prime has not started yet.
No, not for the 2 or 3 years.
That, yeah.
I'm sick and tired of seeing the effort excuse, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes it's absolutely right, and those 2 losses before the Raptors ones were examples of the team not giving its maximum effort, getting behind, and then allowing itself to feel sorry for themselves. So there are times where it applies, but I keep seeing the same horse shit for Booker and Ayton especially, where if they're not playing 100% every single possession of every game, apparently that's not good enough. And I don't for the life of me understand it. I really don't.
Like, how it's I like it almost to the dunk contest. You can't give 10s on everything. You can't give 100% effort on every single moment on the floor unless you're a guy that's going to play 10, 12 minutes a game, because your body will break down at that point. So like there has to be a little bit of conservation. There has to be a little bit of pacing, because otherwise you just break down.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So this idea that, they're not giving enough effort, I don't know. I don't like that idea.
I think people, the majority of these fans that are Suns fans, I have to assume they don't watch a lot of other teams. At most, they're going to get their information from like highlight reels. And it's so easy to be like, well, look what the Rockets are doing, right? Like, look at James Harden. He's so good. And it's like, when you watch the game, you see all the turnover. Like, he's a great player. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, you see more of the blemishes when you actually like watch the games. And so they're watching all the Suns games. They're seeing all the issues. If you pulled out only Suns highlights, we'd look phenomenal too.
You pull out any team's just highlights.
Yeah, but like you gotta.
Yeah.
It all depends on perspective, and you got to keep things into context.
Like James Harden, every game has at least a half dozen possessions where he throws the ball to Westbrook and he stands 35 feet from the basket, and he's like, "All right, figure it out. I'm not doing anything this possession."
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Westbrook turns it over and Harden just watches the other team go the other way. And
which, is not even, I won't even harp on Harden too much, because the idea is to spread the floor. But yeah, a fan seeing that, if that was Booker, he doesn't care, there's no effort. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you want to spread the floor, and like, what do you want him to do? Like, fucking run in circles? Like,
yeah, the defender has to honor him out there because he could shoot it with Booker or Harden.
Yeah.
So you got a defender pulled 35 feet from the basket. That's about the best you could hope for in that outcome. You got all the room you need to operate on a 4-on-4. God forbid you can run a pick and roll and get an advantage then.
I wonder, I kind of was like, man, I get this is how it works, and you can argue with me on this one, but because no coach stays for a really long time, there are very few exceptions. I think back and I'm like, I kind of wish we didn't fire D'Antoni. Like, clearly he was not tapped out, which is what I think a lot of people thought. He tried an experiment. It's being exposed now. It doesn't work. He's a hack. We're done. And he's like, no, you get him the right personnel. He's a great coach.
So I guess I just would wish that his run would have coincided with Nash's run, because the stuff that I've heard them talk about recently with both Nash and D'Antoni were both like, we should have shot more.
Yeah, we didn't take it far enough. And they did take it far enough because they got Kurt Thomas and they got Shaq. Obviously, that was the end of it in some ways, and they managed
Grant
to
Hill,
who
played well for us and adapted a corner three a little bit, but still was against the principles of D'Antoni's system.
So I think, obviously D'Antoni wouldn't still be here today. If we just never would have fired him, there's no way he would have stuck around this long. But as far as coaches sticking around, I loved the Gentry years, at least that one year, which was nice. But honestly, D'Antoni staying here through like 2012, I would have been fine with that. And then it would have Nashville left and like, all right, now we're rebuilding. And so we fired D'Antoni or have him leave mutually,
Well, the thing that I keep going back to is, I agree with you. He wouldn't still be here. It's very hard to imagine that scenario without us actually having won a title in there. But the core principle that I still agree with, because the criticism D'Antoni gets is, well, he's only as good as his players, or he's only as good as how people fit in his system. And I'm like, okay, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
At least we know exactly what type of players will succeed in his system on a team that will thrive then. Because, he flamed out in New York when he had fucking Carmelo. But guess what? Carmelo's, again, the antithesis of a Mike D'Antoni system.
Yeah.
And look, he's got another system that fits him again, and all of a sudden... So, this is not a criticism of Monty Williams, but, what players are a good fit for Monty Williams? I don't have the first goddamn idea.
Yeah.
No. And I guess that maybe is something that can hopefully happen over the next couple of years. We signed him to a 5-year contract, I believe. So the idea is we're not getting rid of him no matter what, unless it's just a complete dumpster fire. And this year by is not a complete dumpster fire. So hopefully in the next years, James Jones and Monty Williams can work together to form the player that he wants.
As depressing as this is, I realize I normally feel this depression in November. And yet here we are in March, and it's happened. It's official. We're not making the playoffs now.
Done.
But
I'm checking Tinkathon.
I got all the way to February and March. That's a vast improvement from last year.
Yeah, we're 7.5 out with 20 to play, and we have 5 teams to leapfrog. But I think it's safe to say we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're done. Yeah. But it took this long. Had we not dropped Detroit and Golden State, I would be like, we're probably done.
Without Oubre, yeah.
There's a chance,
Maybe. Yeah.
Now, it's down. But, it was a good run.
I do need to know something. Does anyone actually know what happened to Oubre?
Meniscus.
Well, yes, that, but how? How did he injure that?
On what play? I don't know.
I don't think there was a specific one.
No, it wasn't. It was just after a game. And so there's been some speculation, I guess I'd say, is that he hurt himself doing something he should have been doing. But there's no concrete evidence about this.
Yeah, but meniscus injuries can come from wear and tear. They don't have to be a specific incident. So I don't. Yeah. Maybe, but I feel like if that was the case, it would have been public knowledge by now.
Yeah, you're probably right. So it was just weird how it was all right, Kelly finished the game, no problem, and Kelly's out for the season. What?
Well, yeah, and that's, you talk about letdowns. One of our best wins of the whole season. And then we find out one of our best players is hurt for the rest of the season. That stuff starts to wear on you. We get off to a hot start. Ayton suspended 25 games. It's just a nonstop thing. And the more I think about it, building this culture, which I hope the players, by all accounts, they're still buying into the coaching system. They're together on this. It doesn't really matter that much if we end up winning 30 or 34 or 28. It would be nice, but it's more about building that culture, getting the development with this crew and the cohesion, like you said, Dave. That's what's going to matter more going forward than at some range of 6 wins, especially at this point.
Yeah. And Monty talked about how they basically had a letdown after Kelly was out for the year. He basically said straight up, a lot of the players sort of kind of were just down about it and coming off of a big win, like you mentioned. And all of a sudden, when you think, maybe there's still a last gasp chance or something, You get the rug pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And I think people get just so hung up on this idea that, like, there can be things that are both reasons and excuses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Yes, it's a bit of an excuse. They should have come out with better effort. They're professionals, and they should have a better effort on any given night, no matter what's happening alongside them. But like you mentioned before, they're also just humans.
Mm-hmm.
And some letdown would be expected in that spot. You're coming off of a high, and you come crashing down. We experience that in day-to-day life, and you go, like, you know, some big news happens that's good, and then something else comes and smacks you right in the face, and you go, oh,
yeah,
here we go again. You know, I get it.
I think at that point you do have to kind of back up, take a look at the bigger picture, and like kind of you talked about with development cohesion. If you look at our last 5 years, this is the highest win total we have. We still have 20 games left, I think. Let's see, 24 and 38 at the moment. So that's 50, 62 games right now. So we have 20 games left.
Yep.
Yeah, 20 games left. We have more wins than any season since 2014, 2015. Out of the whole season. We're tied for the most wins out of the last 5 years with 20 games left. So, I mean, it's not all loss. We're improving. Hopefully we can get another, I would say, finishing 8-12 would be pretty good to finish this up with 32 wins. That we can build on something like this. It's kind of the hope, I guess.
We only need to go 6-14 to make it to 30 wins.
Yeah.
6-14.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying we will. It's just,
yeah.
boy, is that a low bar to clear.
Yeah.
It's really depressing too, because how many games have we lost where we led in the fourth quarter? How many games have we lost where we've been leading by double digits? A lot.
You know what sucks is, even though there's the stupid fan that's like, well, why was he rusty? He was practicing with the team. It's like, shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about Ayton, and it's like, you really do see, had he been able to play the whole season, that could have been, I mean, not a small difference, a huge difference. Look how much he's progressed even in the last 15 games.
Isn't it so easy to tell who's never played basketball in their life?
Oh, yeah.
You hear something like that, and you're like, oh, what? He was working out. Have you been on a basketball court before? Have you gelled with teammates before? Have you done anything other than pick up basketball at the gym where you jack 35-footers and that's it? No? Okay.
So I have like this cadence of like basketball because I take like a class, right? And so one summer I was like, I'm not gonna have like a letdown. I'm gonna practice on my own the whole summer. I go back, semester starts, I have the same letdown because shooting by yourself and even like working out and playing with other people like casually is not the same as real games. And this is just a class. It's not the NBA. It's a group thing at NAU.
I think it's impressive how much better DeAndre Ayton's team defense has gotten despite that setback to start the season. Because you can work on individual defense, and it seems like his work with Mark Bryant has been paying off quite a bit. But at the end of the day, you still can't work on those 5-on-5 schemes, even in practice, because other teams throw different looks. So the fact that he's gotten this much better, I think, speaks volumes to how much work he's put in.
Well, and one of the takes on him was like, oh yeah, okay, the defense is better, but like, what about the offense? And it's like, so he was focused on defense. A player can't develop everything all at once. This isn't a video game or an anime, right? But his scoring actually has gotten better too. Scoring's up, rebounding's up, and now he can play awesome defense. I mean, I almost feel like had he played the whole year, there's an outside chance he would be on an all NBA defensive team. Possibly. And there's a chance.
Yeah.
Outside chance, yeah. I mean, he's affected shots. He's blocked shots. I mean, just overall, you can't argue with some of his results. I don't know. People are I guess it's the, hey, he was a bust. Oh, he missed too much time. Like, it does not seem that there's anything he can do right.
Yeah.
No, I hate our fan base. I really do. I hate our fan base. I hate the three of us too. I hate everyone. The problem is, we rag. Not we. I actually don't hate us, but the fan base. You know, they talk about he doesn't play defense. Like, how many times do you play? Like, do you hear our team sucks at defense? They don't give effort. And then you have a player where his main focus was defense, and like all they can talk about is how much he sucks, and like how that's not enough, and they wish he had worked on his 3-pointer.
So I mean,
you can't win.
Yeah, I want to just read these off a little bit because it kind of I think it highlights it well. If you would have come into the season and told me that DeAndre Ayton would average 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 1.7 blocks per game, Wouldn't you take that? Wouldn't you be like, "Oh, good job, buddy. You're getting better every year with improved defense." Like if you said that at the beginning of the year, wouldn't everybody be happy with this?
I mean, if I had thought he was going to be a turnstile on defense still, no, I would have expected at least more offensive improvement than that.
Yes.
But what was the number one thing everybody wanted from Ayton at the end of last season? Oh, he had put up
Defense.
16 and 10 and a block per game, but apparently that's easy for him, so that's not good enough. But damn it, if he could just be a good defender, we're going to need him to be the linchpin of our defense for the years to come. Well, he's
And,
done
he
that.
yeah.
He's done that exactly, and that's still not enough.
And I just can't figure it out. It's like, and then let's throw in the wrinkle if he's only played 30 games. Had he played 60 games, I think that would have made a huge difference in his development again.
Development, personal development with the team.
Yes.
Just to illustrate the point, this is the last thing I'll say on this topic. They talked about how there was a plane flight where Ayton and Rubio were like, we're going to watch film together. We want to work out this like 2-man game, like pick and roll and all that. We want to figure it out. And instead of fans being like, that's really cool, we're glad to hear it, they're like, why did it take so long? This is the most disheartening thing I've heard all year. It's like, all right. I'm out. I'm done. I'm done with you, Brightside. I can't do it anymore.
No, I have abandoned Brightside completely. I generally follow Reddit for opinions, but even those are pretty crappy sometimes.
Which I feel bad because the writers on Brightside, they work really hard. They do good content, but it's like the readers, the fan base, I can't handle anymore.
And I understand. I mean, again, it's been a decade. Frustration is boiling over, more so long term than I think specifically this season. So I get it. But it's like you can't have that frustration outweigh just common sense. It can't happen.
Yeah. So it sucks. There's not a lot more to say about it. It's another losing season. There's progress. There's the silver lining. But this is another year. And I mean, honestly, given the improvements this year, would you go into next year saying, I expect us to make the playoffs? Like, no.
Because... No. I mean, for multiple reasons. One, the free agent class is terrible this year. Two, the draft is nothing to write home about this year. And three,
everyone else
Kevin
is
Durant's
better.
Kevin Durant's coming back. The Warriors are coming back with a top 5 pick. Granted, the draft isn't great, but I mean, it's still a top 5 pick. I mean, there's going to be just more and more teams getting better, and I don't see us, unless we somehow make some sort of crazy trade, really competing with that. Unless Cam and Mikal and Kelly and Devin and DeAndre all take those extra steps.
I mean, we'd still have to leapfrog Oklahoma City and Memphis because we're not both of them because we're not leapfrogging Golden. As soon as Golden State's back, they're a contender again. I mean, even without Durant, they're still a contender. So that's not happening.
Still.
And New Orleans. Yeah. So that's just another one, and it's like, geez.
The only thing that helps. And this is going to be the closest I ever get to being an optimist, but other than teams that were injured this year and basically kind of just axed themselves out of contention, nobody else is really going to get that much better outside of those because the free agent pool sucks and the draft sucks.
Yeah, that's true.
The one thing that helps is we will have some money to spend, and the type of players we're looking for are not superstars, but rather a few more rotation players that make that bench salvageable. Which is a thing we could actually do in this offseason. Those type of players are going to be available.
You can overpay for the 1-year deal, potentially.
Yeah, especially if you don't commit yourself to any long-term money so that following season, when all the people are free agents, you still have the flexibility you need.
And if we can get that health, I mean, again, I it's a stat that I know is probably doesn't mean as much as it appears, but it's all I have to hold on to is that like starting 5, the minutes, and that differential. I would just like to see a season out of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but if you take off the rose-tinted glasses, it still makes sense. That is a modern-day NBA lineup.
Yeah.
Switchable defenders. Yes, Booker's still below average, but whatever. A core big man who's not a statue out there who can switch effectively. That lineup makes sense in the modern NBA, so I don't feel like that's a fluke. I mean, maybe they're not that good, but the fact that's a plus lineup, that's unquestionably true at this point.
Well, and then at that point, you got to fill in a decent backup point guard who can kind of run an offense and still play a little defense, and then have that same type of center. Because as good as Baines was, I don't think he was that non-statue center who could switch out there very well on defense. So if you can get those types of things, then we still have Kelly, Cam, and Mikal kind of rotating through there.
those are all three good defense. I know every once in a while Kelly like takes the possession off, but like he's way up there in the league on like deflections and steals and like those kind of stats. Bridge is the same way. Ayton, we just talked about how good his defensive is. So it's a nice blend of offense and defense. The one of those who isn't great at defense is Devin Booker, who like more than makes up for it with what he can do on offense. So that's a good team. That's a good starting five.
So we just got to fill in those couple holes and see where it goes.
Yeah, and we said back in the beginning, when you listen back to some of the Suns casts from before, that this team was only going to be as good as Booker and Ayton made them because there wasn't going to be some mega free agent riding through the door unless those two took enough strides to make it a consideration. And if they didn't get anybody anyways, then they would have to just be good enough on their own and then surround them with pieces. Well, I mean, Booker has stagnated the last 2 weeks. There's no question, but he was an all-star, and Ayton appears to be on that same path. Now, maybe not in the West. It's tough. I get it. But even if he's just all-star caliber without actually being recognized, those two will be the basis of what we need going forward, as long as we can surround them with the right fit.
Especially if we can get Ayton involved in the offense to where Kelly really is the third option, which is, I think, like kind of his destiny, and that's great. That's fine.
That should be his destiny, yeah.
And, like, that's great.
Or we'll just have Devin Booker request a trade to the Timberwolves, and it'll all blow up in our face.
There you go. Yeah.
Can't even wait to see what poo-poo platter that would be.
I mean, they've got nothing but draft picks they'd offer us, and we would go, no.
They have to match the salary somehow.
Yeah, well, okay. Good luck.
Some active players have to come back in that deal.
Man, the Pelicans, they're like, is their GM known for being like a genius? Because
well, you know who their GM is.
Who?
David Griffin.
Oh, man.
The one that we kind of drove away.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. He's at the very least aggressive enough to pull the trigger on things he thinks is going to improve. Now, granted, Zion fell into his fucking lap, but still, you can see the makings of something there.
They were overachieving even before that, though, too. So, I mean, they weren't,
I want to point out that not only did Zion fall into his lap, but the fact that another trade chip fell into his lap, too, with the Anthony Davis trade when the Lakers got in the top four. It was just like, oh, yeah, we'll take that one, too.
Yeah.
Just like, really?
But at the end of the day, he was able to extract more from that deal than anybody expected, especially once his trade demand became known. It's like, well, you guys don't have any leverage. He wants to go to LA anyways, so what's going to be the incentive? Well, as soon as he was able to leverage the Celtics and a couple other teams against the Lakers, all of a sudden they included a whole hell of a lot for a one-year rental. And now, granted, he's going to re-sign there, so it's really not that. But there was the chance he could leave after this season, and they got all that for him.
There's still a chance he could leave. It's unlikely, but yeah, it's a lot to risk for. Like, if Anthony Davis leaves, we know what that team is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where it happens other than, like, LeBron breaks his leg and his career's over, which I'm not advocating or rooting for in any way, but, like, that team is in shambles without LeBron on the court. They're, like, 10 points per 100 worse without LeBron, which is only bested by Giannis this year. So if he were somehow, like, disappeared, if he had Space Jam power sucked out of him and he couldn't play basketball anymore, then he'd look at the rest of the roster and be like, peace out.
Dude.
But otherwise, it's not happening. He's not leaving.
Dave, you have a Space Jam ball. You can steal all of LeBron's talent, but it sucks him dry.
Does that mean that I can then enter the NBA now?
Do you do it?
Oh, hell yeah.
He had a great run.
So you step all over LeBron James just to elevate yourself.
Yeah.
How much money am I going to make out of this? Oh, enough for one season to live the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, think about the endorsement deals Jeremy Lin got for like 35 games in his career.
Let's do. Yeah, I don't. LeBron, he's very talented. IQ is through the roof, but like a big part of his success is his body. And no offense,
breaks.
Dave, but you don't have LeBron's body.
Yeah, but I would assume even if he doesn't have LeBron's exact body, he gets some of those physical capabilities. Because
did you see what the Monstars became? These tiny,
you're right.
Monstars
You're
went,
right. Okay,
and the NBA players who still had their bodies were still like feeble and weak, no matter how ripped they were.
That's true.
Now the question is, are you getting like 36-year-old LeBron's energy, which is still really, really good, like top 5 NBA player for sure? So you only have a limited time because you still do it, but at least you have to be like, oh my god, the clock's ticking. I got to make this count right now.
Well, considering LeBron, is 2 weeks older than me, and that's it. So it's really no different to me.
Yeah.
I just now have superpowers, basically.
Yeah, you gaining 6 inches overnight is no big deal, and
exactly.
200 pounds of muscle mass.
Exactly.
Now,
Would you give it back when you were done?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Oh yeah, I would want 1 season of his salary. And I'd be like, thanks, guys. I'm done.
You say that, but then you're going to get through the 1 season and you're going to be like, this, everything I earned, everything I got could be double.
Well,
I'm going to go
I get
one
what
more.
you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I my conscience would take over at that point.
All right. Not enough to stop you in the first place, but
no, hell no. No, not at all. Because now I can buy my beach house and I can buy my fancy car. And
I also don't know if I love the optics of a white man voluntarily taking a black man's powers in 2020.
Dude, Shaun proposed this.
Finally, the white man gets a leg
you're
up.
Basically, like Get Out, but like if the bad guys won, is what's happening.
All right, well, good. We managed to make another episode about Space Jam. If you've been keeping that counter up on the wall, like it's been X many episodes until a Space Jam reference, you can go ahead and flip that back to 0.
Does anyone want to hear the Devin Booker trade that I figured out
for Minnesota?
Yeah,
sure. Waste our time with garbage real quick.
I mean, James Johnson, Jarrett Culver, Juan Hernan Gomez, and Josh Okogie for Devin Booker. The trade wins. Trade is successful.
And I would assume at least 3 first-round picks.
At least, if not more. The Suns decreased by 6 wins against John Hollinger.
Some people would take that trade right now.
Who?
Fucking idiots. That's who.
Good Lord. Never.
As I sign off, this is a Snapchat of glasses filter on my dog.
Oh my god.
That was worse than my trade offer.
What a learned dog.
That's really cute.
Who's ready to go to Harry Potter school.
Yep.
Hogwarts. That's what it's called.
I love it so much.
That's a good outro as any, I think. So I think, not to promise anything we won't deliver, but I think next week we're going to continue our best games ever series, our best year in games ever series. I'm a little drunk. It's fine. And take a look back at another year from the past and decide if it was the best ever.
Do we know what year yet?
I think we were looking at 2000. Is that not what I had in there?
No, I think you're right.
That sounds familiar.
So
no, 2001. 2001
Dave,
lied.
Do your homework, Dave.
Got it.
So 2001 will be the next year that we tackle, when we get to it. Even if it's not next week, that's probably the next one we're going to do. But I think that'll be next week. It's the week of my birthday, so that's what I want to do.
All right.
As I start hurtling towards my late 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of this episode. In between shows, you can find us at objectionnetwork.com, on youtube.com/objectionnetwork, where the Cold Steel playthrough is still continuing. It's almost done, though. And finally, you can send emails to the show to objectionnetwork@gmail.com. See you next time.